What's up guys? Welcome to AnimeKouhai, an extension of Anime Senpai PH channel. All pieces of information are derived from the light novel. In today's video, we will continue Chapter 6, Volume 7 of the light novel, entitled Gods and Demon Lords. This video is the 9th part of Chapter 6 in our Tensura spoiler video series. If you haven't watched the previous episodes, feel free to check out the links in the description below. Now, let's get to the video. The clergy were shocked. Valentine asked the clergy what they were doing in a place like this. The clergy visibly withered in her presence, cowering in fear. Then they knelt before her. Rimuru guessed that Valentine had actually been the god Luminous this whole time. The realization struck him dumb. Diablo, almost shaking with glee, let out an evil laugh. Rimuru, via thought communication, said alright and granted Diablo permission to rub them out. With those simple words from Rimuru, Diablo had full permission to do as he pleased. He wanted these fools eliminated as quickly as possible. Yes, but before that, there was some business to take care of. He turned toward the press corps and asked them if everyone was alright. The fireball was blocked by the barrier Diablo built, keeping all the journalists unharmed. This barrier also kept all the demon hunters, as well as King Edward and his knights, safe from injury. Nothing based on magicules, including a spectral and spiritual magic, could penetrate it. The clergy said that since this annoying little demon was capable of that much, it was time to show off their own holy force. The clergy, expecting to wrap this whole thing up in a matter of seconds, had to be surprised. No matter how powerful this demon was, destroying his physical body would eliminate any influence of his on this world. The moment he could no longer maintain his magical form, it was back to the spiritual realm for him. Anticipating this, the 7 Days Clergy launched an ultimate class magic the moment they arrived. It was Nuclear Flame, part of the nuclear family of aspectual magic. 3 people were required to carry it out, the force of it being too much for one, and it rained unquenchable hellfire upon its target. Against Diablo, however, it was powerless. The clergy were so overwhelmed that they quickly opted for their final weapon. Defeating someone as powerful as Diablo required holy force and nothing else. Their minds made up, they decided to bring out their finisher, Trinity Break. It was the same move their compatriots tried against Rimuru, and while it took some time to prepare, they could be protected by a barrier during casting, keeping them safe. What's more, the Trinity disintegration launched at the end of this spell was the most powerful of all holy magic, capable of reducing anyone and anything to its composite cells. No matter how great the monster or magic born, from Demon Lords on down, this attack could never be resisted. It was thus with total confidence that the clergy uncorked this spell just as Diablo began negotiating, not with 7 Days, but with the press. Diablo gently asked the press if they saw that attack. He told them that it seemed clear to him that the clergy made an attempt on their lives. Even Sare, enemies with Diablo until a moment ago, couldn't deny it. The journalists certainly didn't. They all nodded their understanding. Everyone there knew of them. The 7 Days Clergy of Legend, the guardians of humankind, the great heroes. Diablo was telling the truth. The journalists were sure a moment ago that they'd be breathing their last. The clergy would bury them all, Diablo included, and then they would pin the blame for it on the demon. Diablo continued that there was no need for alarm, and he would protect them all. To the crowd, Diablo's smile looked like the reassuring countenance of a benevolent god. They believed him. If he was powerful enough to shrug off a battle sage like Sare that easily, beating the legendary 7 Days didn't seem so fantastical either. Some among the press asked Diablo what he wanted from them. They worried about what Diablo would desire in return. Demons never work for free. They always demand something back, and Diablo was no different. He would never provide a service for no reason unless he was doing it for Rimuru. Diablo told them that he appreciated their understanding, and he sought only one thing from all of them. His demand, given with a smile, was this: report his innocence to the world. The journalists, hearing this, breathed a sigh of relief. They were expecting a cruel, merciless demon, but the truth was something else entirely. If Sare, one of the chief officers in the Holy Empire of Lobelius, was caught up in the clergy's dragnet, it meant that group had to be conspiring on an impossibly high level behind the scenes. The journalists were being used too, and once they knew that, there was no reason to turn down Diablo's request. The press responded. They would spread the word far and wide, and they would write whatever Diablo wanted, and all about his glorious deeds. There were nearly 100 members of the press there, and all of them promised their loyalty. The unique skill Tempter was faithfully doing its work on them. Betrayal wouldn't be forgiven, as the pact had been forged. Diablo smiled. He said very well, and promised that he would save all of them, but not him. The demon pointed at Edward, only now recovering from his fainting spell. Edward, in a trembling voice, asked Diablo why, and what he had ever done. But Diablo spat out and asked Edward to shut up. Diablo told him that he had openly mocked the great Sir Rimuru, a crime worth 1,000 deaths, and it was time for him to realize that saving him was worthless. Edward racked his hazy mind for some way out, but none came. The only thing for certain was that if things kept up, he was going to die. He looked toward his knights, but they averted their eyes. Defying the will of a monster like that, or the heroes of legend, wasn't conducive to their health. With his whole heart, Edward pleaded with Diablo to allow him to live. All that remained was to attempt a teary-eyed round of begging, but it failed to bend Diablo's heart. Instead, Diablo told him to feel free to continue lamenting his foolishness as he departed this realm. None of the press lifted a finger to help Edward. There was nothing they could do. Edward was the cause of all this in the first place, and nobody was going to step in for him now and face that demon's wrath. The king, realizing this, started crying and pleaded again that he would give Diablo everything, his money, even his throne. Edward promised to step down and give Diablo whatever he wanted. Diablo paused, apparently giving this offer some serious thought. He said, lightening his tone, that the hero Yom was guarding Admaris at the moment, and Diablo believed that Yom was the only one qualified to truly lead the land of Farmus. Diablo then asked Edward what he thought of that. Edward knew that. His mind, racing at speeds higher than he ever felt in his life, was sure of that. The king quickly replied that he agreed with Diablo and Yom had great potential. Edward promised that he would gladly announce Yom as his successor. The answer was a source of great satisfaction for Diablo. The journalists could sense it as well. A couple of them even began to laugh and said that the birth of a hero king was the news of the century. Diablo nodded contentedly. Now the table was perfectly set. A few of the details had gone awry in his plan, but the results wound up more than satisfactory. Now all that remained was to sweep up the garbage. The time had come. The clergy asked Diablo if he was ready for this. They told him that in just a few more moments, a rain of light would cleanse this realm of evil. They advised Diablo to enjoy what few remaining seconds he had left to live. The clergy had been watching these events from afar, assured that their upcoming spell would win the day for them. What arrived instead was a single moment of despair. Diablo asked them back what he was ready for exactly, and told them to stop making him laugh, calling them scum. Diablo said they had meddled with his plans and shamed him in front of Sir Rimuru, both serious crimes. Diablo swore they would taste the fear and despair he had felt many, many times over. There wasn't a trace of a smile on Diablo as he regarded the 7 days. His face was expressionless, the beauty to it only adding to the fear factor. The clergy asked Diablo if he had lost his mind. They boasted that this spell could never be resisted. The clergy was cut off by a snap of the fingers, and then the world was enveloped in horror. Enjoy the sensation of powerlessness in a crumbling world. moment of despair. Diablo uttered. This was Diablo's power, taking advantage of Tempting World, one skill in the Tempter repertory. Normally, it worked directly on the target's subconscious to affect their mental state, but Diablo had improved on it. It let him materialize a virtual world for its hapless victim, then exercise absolute control over that world. Diablo could even dictate who lived and died in this virtual realm. And then, with the help of the Truth Twist skill, he could switch out that pretend world for the real one. The phantoms and monsters crafted by him would take on real form in the physical plane. It was as unfair a skill as it was inhumane. Breaking out of it could only be done with sheer willpower and a well-trained spiritual body. But almost nobody could defeat the spiritual life form of Diablo in that contest. And not even the 7 Days Clergy was an exception. The Clergy were devastated to find out that their magic was disappearing. The three of them struggled in abject surprise, but there was nothing they could do. Diablo clock ticked on their personal hell, and after a short while, their world collapsed. Enjoy reflecting upon your foolishness in the deepest pit of hell, Diablo said. It was time for the final flourish, end of the world, the final snuffing out of the tempting world he created, taking everything inside with it. It swallowed up the 7 Days Clergy's full despair, taking it all the way to the final second. And then the promises made in this battlefield were safely carried out. That's it for this video, guys. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe and click the bell notification icon so you will never miss the upcoming continuation of Tensura's spoiler video series. Thank you for always watching my videos and supporting my channel. Shout out to the top 10 commenters on my previous video. Shout out to Rival Sakiln, Jamie Ira, Venom Legend, Bunny, Jesraj Jen, Pashout Out Senpai, Abdul Fatawu, Vivek, Kuan Shuan, Rose Deo, Enderscod 360, and last but not the least, shout out to Amaral Tempest. I'll see you guys in the next video.